It is with heavy hearts that we begin to understand the depth of a loss that has quietly unraveled behind the bright lights of morning television. Sheinelle Jones, known to millions as the radiant and warm co-host of NBC's Today Show, is facing a sorrow few can truly comprehend. Her husband, Uche Oje, has died at the age of 45 following a grueling and private battle with glioblastoma, an aggressive and devastating form of brain cancer that does not discriminate, does not negotiate, and shows no mercy. What we are left with is not just the tragic loss of a man, but the unfolding of a love story interrupted, a family shaken, and a woman the world thought they knew now standing in the quiet shadow of grief. The news was shared in hushed, trembling voices on Friday's broadcast of Today. Her colleagues, friends really, stood on set, their professional demeanor softened by the weight of reality. Savannah Guthrie, with a visible strain in her voice, said, "There are no words for the pain that we feel for Sheinelle and their 3 young children. Uche was an incredible person. We all loved him." There was a pause, not just for breath, but to hold back tears, a moment that seemed to stretch long enough for every viewer to sit with that grief. "We just want to say, Sheinelle, Cayenne, Uche and Clara and the Oje family, we are with you, we love you, you are our family, and we're just sending all of our love to you right now." And in that moment, the separation between screen and real life vanished. The poised television anchors were no longer just delivering news. They were mourning. They were, for a moment, mirrors to our own humanity. Craig Melvin added something simple yet infinitely profound. He loved those kids more than anything else in this world, and was just so proud. He was that dad that was on the sideline of every soccer game. He was at all of the concerts and the recitals. He was that guy. That guy. Not a celebrity, not a businessman or a social media figure, just a dad, just a man. But not just anything. He was everything to his family. And now he is gone. It's hard to grasp the gravity of such a loss without fully understanding the man behind the name. Uche Oje wasn't known for seeking attention or occupying the spotlight. In many ways, he chose a life lived quietly, steadily, and meaningfully behind the scenes. His greatest joy, it seems, was in supporting others, his children, his wife, and the life they built together. But the story of Uche and Sheinelle doesn't begin with tragedy. It begins with fate and a little bit of college serendipity. In no. The late 1990s, Sheinelle was a student at Northwestern University. It was a campus full of possibility, of bustling student life and ambitious energy. One day, during a routine campus tour, Sheinelle, then a bright, eager student leader, was paired as a guide to an incoming prospective student. That student was Uche. He was quiet, polite, and observant, and the tour she gave would unknowingly become the first page of their love story. They remained in touch, their lives slowly entwining with the innocence of young adulthood. It wasn't a whirlwind romance filled with public declarations and dramatic moments. Instead, it was a story told in quiet chapters, friendship evolving into affection, shared dreams blending into shared goals. 8 years later, in 2007, they stood before their friends and family and vowed to spend the rest of their lives together. It wasn't a fairy tale wedding with magazine spreads and media coverage. It was a union of 2 people who had grown together, challenged each other, and chosen each other again and again. Their marriage wasn't perfect, because no real marriage is, but it was deeply rooted in mutual respect and admiration. Over the course of 17 years, they weathered the storms that come with careers, children, personal challenges, and eventually, illness. Together, they welcomed 3 beautiful children into their lives: Cayenne, now 15, and their 12-year-old twins, Clara and Uche. Their home was filled with life, the messiness of school mornings, the energy of laughter echoing through the halls, and the presence of 2 parents who, despite their own busy careers, were committed to being fully present. Sheinelle's life in front of the camera was often fast-paced and filled with responsibilities. Hosting a nationally televised morning show requires stamina, grace, and a near-constant presence. But behind that public persona was a woman who returned home each day to the comforting rituals of family life. And Uche was the constant behind. That curtain, the man making dinner, organizing school runs, cheering loudly from the sidelines of a Saturday game. He was a figure many of us know and yet rarely celebrate. A man whose strength came not from public accolades, but from the fierce way he loved and supported his family. When Uche was diagnosed with glioblastoma, it wasn't shared with the world. And why would it be? This wasn't something Sheinelle needed the world to consume, analyze, or react to. It was a deeply private battle, one fought behind closed doors, far from the stage lights of Studio 1A. Glioblastoma is cruel. It moves quickly, disrupting life with a force that leaves little time for preparation. It is the kind of diagnosis that steals hope, that upends futures, that breaks the hearts of children far too soon. Those close to the family now understand why. Back in mid-January, Sheinelle stepped away from the Today Show without offering details. She cited a family health matter and returned only when she was ready. In a world so demanding of transparency, she chose to protect her sacred inner world. That decision, in hindsight, reveals not only her grace, but her strength. She knew her time was needed not on a television set, but beside her husband's hospital bed, with her children in her arms, holding together the life they had built as it began to slip from their grasp. It's difficult to capture in words the pain of watching a loved one fade away, of watching someone so full of life become weakened by something you cannot fight. There is a particular agony in preparing your children for the inevitable, in explaining to them what death means before they've even had the chance to understand life. And yet, in the midst of that heartbreak, Sheinelle continued to show up for her children, for her husband, and now, again, for her viewers. But make no mistake, she is not back to normal. There is no return from this kind of loss. There is only learning to live alongside it. When she shared the Today segment about Uche on Instagram, she wrote simply, "Thank you for all of your love and support." It was a short message, but it spoke volumes. Behind those words was a woman carrying immense grief, trying to find the strength to continue. The support from the Today family, from viewers, and from those who have walked this same path is not just appreciated, it is essential. It reminds us that even in the darkest moments, we are not truly alone. For Sheinelle, the road ahead is uncertain. She must now navigate motherhood as a solo parent, continue her professional journey with a heart still healing, and somehow find space to grieve amidst all of it. But if there's one thing we've learned about her over the years, it's that she is resilient. Not invincible, but resilient. She shows us that strength doesn't mean smiling through the pain. Sometimes it means crying openly, speaking honestly, and continuing on anyway. And for Uche, though his physical presence is gone, his legacy is very much alive. It lives in Kayan, who has his father's thoughtful gaze. It lives in Clara and young Uche, who carry pieces of their father's spirit. With them, his kindness, his attentiveness, his unwavering love. It lives in the stories that will be told at family dinners, in the traditions that will be carried on, and in the quiet moments when the house feels still, but his memory lingers. We often talk about legacy in grand terms, buildings named after someone, awards and honors, lasting fame. But perhaps the most profound legacy is this: the way a person loved. Uche Oje loved deeply, fiercely, and without condition. That love is etched into the hearts of his family. It is the kind of love that doesn't end when life does. It becomes something else entirely. It becomes strength. It becomes memory. It becomes the reason to keep going. In this time of mourning, we are reminded that life is fragile, that the people we hold dearest can be taken from us in an instant. And yet we are also reminded of life's beauty, the beauty of a love story that began on a college campus tour, of 3 children born, of that love, and of a man whose quiet presence shaped a family and touched countless lives.